Tujikaze, tujikaze, jikaze. Tujikaze, tujikaze, jikaze. Africa, tujikaze, tujikaze, jikaze. America, tujikaze, tujikaze, jikaze.
You are listening to African Father in America podcast by Simon Javan Okello, live from Seattle, Washington, USA.
Greetings, beautiful people. My name is Simon Javan Okello. I am excited to be here with another episode of the African Father in America podcast. I am in Seattle, Washington, and I see some of you already joining me on TikTok. Thank you very much. And also, I see a lot of you joining us on YouTube, on Facebook, on Twitter. I deeply appreciate your presence. Today, I have a really special guest who is joining us for the show, all the way from the motherland, particularly Kisumu, Kenya. I was in Kisumu not too long ago, and I missed you just a little bit. I have to make time to meet you next time. It's funny that the place where you spend a lot of your time, Dean, is also a place where I never miss whenever I'm in Kisumu. So it's unfortunate that we never met, but I'll make sure I see you next time. How are you doing today?
I'm doing great, Simon. Thank you so much for the invite. Yes, it is unfortunate we didn't meet when you were down in Kisumu. I was really hoping to, but I think the time we crossed our timelines somewhat. But I look forward to meeting you the next time you're down. And, I'm really excited. This is actually my first ever podcast. So thank you for the invitation.
Of course. This space is for people like you who are doing great work and bringing stories, but also bringing change to our communities. So for those who are meeting Dean Martins for the first time, he's a 43-year-old Kenyan, father of two girls and author of Chebet and Rafiki, and he has a second book, Daughters of Color, and he's working on his third book, Chair of Charity Tawi Connect, right?
Yes, yeah.
Okay, great. So, as usual, when we come here for the African Father in America podcast, this show is popularly known as the Daily African Proverbs because every episode begins with an African proverb, and that's because we love and value African culture. So if you're watching this and you're probably wondering, why is Simon doing this podcast every single Monday to Friday? It's really because I want to ground myself in my culture, especially because I live so far away from home. And so we've built a community of people that also embrace African culture, especially African proverbs. So today we have one from Zulu, and it's going to form the foundation of our conversation. We will dissect it. I will share 3 nuggets of wisdom related to this proverb, and then Dean Martins, who is my guest, is going to also talk about his own perspective about this proverb. And then after that, we are going to go deeper into the story of Dean. We are going to learn a little bit about your childhood story. What is it that inspires the person that you are today as an author, and also other things that you do in the community? Where did it begin? And then we will talk about your current project. Maybe if you have one of your books, you can pick an excerpt from one of them and read it to the audience, so that we can also appreciate the work and the craft that you've put into your books. And then from there, I'm going to invite you, Dean, to share with the audience how they can stay connected with you, where they can get copies of your book. We want to make sure that we are supporting you as my guest here. But also, before I even continue, I want to bring your attention, for those who are watching, to the Madaraka Festival that is happening. It's happening across the US for the first time. We are having Madaraka Festival in New York on May 16th. It's happening in Atlanta on May 21st, and in Dallas on May 24th, and in Seattle, Washington, where I am currently located, on May 26th. So go to madarakafestival.com and get your tickets. We are bringing some of the most inspiring and award-winning African artists to the diaspora, and you don't want to miss it. So learn more at madarakafestival.com. So our proverb today says that jealousy starts from the eyes. Jealousy starts from the eyes. This is from the Zulu tribe in South Africa. What is it that this proverb reminds you about? Tell me in the comments, whether you're watching on Facebook, on LinkedIn, on Twitter, on TikTok. I want to know your perspectives in the comments. But if you're watching on YouTube, I want you to take a minute and subscribe to my channel, and also leave a comment in the chat below. We want to see what your perspectives are, but also give this video a thumbs up and share it, because those are some of the ways that you can really support the show that we're doing here consistently. So I want to share 3 nuggets of wisdom related to this proverb, and then I want to bring on my special guest to also speak about this proverb before we continue on with our conversation. So this is the first nugget of wisdom related to today's proverb. It says that envy and resentment can be destructive. You know, I think all of us can relate to this. Whenever you are envious and you are resentful, you really destroy yourself even before the person that you are envious of, you know. And then number 2, jealousy can be a destructive emotion, leading to feeling of bitterness, inadequacy, and mistrust. You know, this is something that I've dealt with personally. I see leaders dealing with it. I see children dealing with it, because I'm also a father of 3 girls. And finally, the third nugget of wisdom says that to overcome jealousy, you need to focus on your own strengths and accomplishments rather than comparing yourself to others. You know, this is something that we deal with all the time. You know, we struggle even when it comes to weight. You know, you say, oh, I want to be in shape like so and so, but maybe their body is different from yours. You know, I want to speak like so and so, but maybe their gifts are different from yours. You know, focus on your own gifts, focus on your own beauty, focus on your own talents, and that's how, you know, you will find your own path around the world. So Dean, when you received this proverb from me earlier today, the proverb says jealousy starts from the eyes. What is it that came to your mind? Speak to us for a moment.
Okay, so when I did receive it, I thought, okay, interesting. I thought more like when you said you'd send a proverb, I thought it would be something very positive and, you know, where we put a positive spin on it. So when I received it, it really got me thinking, and I said, oh dear, what does Javan Okello want me to say today? And then I thought about the proverb, and I said, well, there are 2 ways to look at it. Like, first is a literal way in which for you to be jealous of somebody or something, you have to see them first. So in that sense, very literally, jealousy does begin with the eyes, because we see something and then we are envious of the person or the person who has it. But the second thought that came to my mind, in the sense that, you know, they say the eyes are the window to the soul. And when we say jealousy begins in the eyes, they say when you want to see a person's true emotion, or if you want to see what a person truly feels, look at them, look deep into their eyes, or look them straight in the eyes. And those are the thoughts that came to mind. But what you've just said and what you've just shared with us is interesting, because I thought, what if jealousy could actually spur positive action, in the sense that I see, so he's a good speaker, he's a good writer. Yes, there's a twinge of jealousy, but I also aspire to be like him, to write like him, to speak like him, to be in the public eye like him. You know, as I mentioned, this is my very, very first podcast. So I've looked in order to prepare for the podcast, I looked at past episodes of what you've put out on social media, especially on Instagram, and I went through it. And I said, yes, this is brilliant. Was there a twinge of jealousy? Perhaps. But I said, you know, it's also inspiring at the same time.
I love that. I love that. You know, I love how you also say that the eyes are the are the are the path to the soul. I loved your response to this proverb. I want to just quickly recognize a few people that are joining us on the show, on YouTube, on Facebook. I just love seeing all of you there. I'm going to give you a proper shout out in just a moment. So make sure you're letting us know where in the world you're joining us from, and also what today's proverb means to you. The proverb is from the Zulu tribe. It says, jealousy starts from the eyes. So comment whether you're on YouTube, Twitter, TikTok, LinkedIn. We want to see your thoughts in the comments so that towards the end of the show, we can give you a moment to also share with us your perspective. I grew up in Manyata, not too far from where you are, Dean, and I grew up
Yes, I've been.
from when I was 8 years old. My mother gave me a bicycle. I grew up in Manyata CJ, right opposite Magadi Primary School, and so
Okay.
I had a bicycle, the ones that have a big wheel at the back and a small wheel at the front, the ones that are used for carrying a lot of luggage. So I would distribute milk and bread in my neighborhood, from Gesoko. If you know Gesoko, it's not too far from where you are, to to car wash, the car wash on your way to Kibos. That area was really an area that many people knew me because I would drop off milk and bread early in the morning, from as early as 2 a.m. to around 6 before I left for school. And so this routine of distributing milk and bread every day gave me a lot of business knowledge, gave me a lot of connections with people in the community. And I was very young. I was not even 10 years old. And so I share this story with most of my guests in order to inspire them to also share with us their story of what is it that inspires who they are today as leaders. Because for me, those moments that I was sharing with you are the moments that shape who I am, that give me the discipline to even do this show on a daily basis. When you think about podcasting, there are very few podcasts that produce an episode every weekday. So speak to us, share with us, what is it that happened when you are 8 to 16 that really continues to inspire you today?
Okay, thanks, Javin. So I think the story that comes to mind is I was really shy as a child. I was painfully shy, even among my peers, especially with adults. I was a very quiet child. I kept to myself for various reasons. And when I was in my third year um, of high school, I was about 15. Two things happened. The previous year, a family friend had gifted me a book, and it was titled "The Magic Power of Your Mind." And I read it, and it's a very old book, by the way, I think it was published in the 50s. And I read through it, and it really resonated with me because I said, okay, so maybe there's a different approach to building confidence, to building a personality, to putting yourself out there. And then in my third year of high school, we were invited to a public speaking contest that was initially within the schools within our locality, and then it went to a provincial level. And for some reason, despite my shyness at the time, I signed up. I really believed that I could give this thing a shot, and I think the book had inspired me. Maybe I was at an age where I wanted to be maybe more seen or more heard than I had been before that. And the short of that story is that with a ton of preparation and a ton of faith and a ton of belief, um, I won first place. And that's, I think, was the turning point in my own childhood and in my own youth, where I realized you can actually turn around the circumstances of your life through active effort, that there is a different way. It doesn't quite matter the circumstances in which you find yourself initially, but you can build something better if you can find the methods and the support too.
I love that. I love that.
which is what I believe has happened. Which is what I believe has happened to you. With the story that you've just shared as well.
Indeed, 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 indeed. I love that story, and I love how, just faith and belief, and and showing up can really help you accomplish things that you never believed were possible. So I love that story. For those who are joining us here on the African Father in America podcast, I deeply appreciate you. I am hosting an incredible author, Dean Martins, who has written 2 books. He's on his 3rd book currently. He's also a father like me. He's a father of 2 girls. I'm a father of 3 girls. If I'm your competitor, if you're jealous about me, you need to add 1 more. or 2
yes,
more,
yeah.
or 2 more, so
Or
that you're
two,
ahead
and
of me.
overtake.
Yeah. Anyway, so I'm just inspired by the work that you're doing, and I want us to go right there. I want you to share with us, when you think about all the books you've written, all the work that you've done, the place where you work. I don't know if it's appropriate to mention it, but I produced Madaraka Festival, and when we did the Madaraka Festival in 2019, you guys were one of our sponsors in Kisumu. I don't know if you're aware about that. We held all the press conferences there. I could send you pictures. Anyway, so
Yes.
yeah. So remind your people there that we deeply appreciate them. Yeah.
Will do. We'll definitely do.
Yeah. So talk to us about these books. I want to see more authors in Kisumu. And so it's just beautiful. I'm an author myself, but I feel that there's so many stories in Kisumu that need to be told, and so I'm just inspired that you're joining me from my hometown. You're an author, and we are both fathers, and I just feel that what you're doing is important. So talk to us about the book that you're most proud of. If you have it nearby, grab it and share an excerpt from it, please.
Okay, great. Yeah. So the book, I have 2 books, and I have both with me. If you'll allow me to share them. So there's, how clear that is. There's Chibet and Rafiki, and
Yeah.
Other Stories.
I love that. Move it.
Which is a collection. A
Yeah,
little closer to the
right
camera.
there. Yeah, it's a little blurry, but
Cool.
I'm sure. Just give it a moment. Okay, I can see that one.
It'll
So keep
focus,
going.
yeah.
Yeah, keep going.
Okay. So Chibet and Rafiki and Other Stories was my first book. And I'd actually had the stories for a long time. It's just that, again, I was building the confidence to put it out there and to actually call myself a published writer, published author. And it's a collection of 6 short stories dedicated to my oldest daughter. I grew up in Eldoret, in and around the culture. Chibet and Rafiki is the first of 6 stories, and each of the stories is Kenyan based, with Kenyan children as characters in Kenyan settings, ranging from the Rift Valley to the coast, in and around Kenya. And each story has what I believe is a little nugget of wisdom for the children, like be brave or be kind or be truthful. And the reason I'm so proud of it is that growing up, there weren't very many Kenyan stories that we could relate to. And we had a book reading in Manyata, by the way, Okello, with an outfit there, a community library called the Angels of Sunset. And initially, the children ran up to me and they told me, oh, Dean, this is our favorite book. And of course, I was very honored, very happy, very touched, and asked them, well, why? Why is it? Why would you say it's your favorite book? And these little children told me that, oh, it's because the characters in the stories are Kenyans like us. And I think that was one of my defining moments. And I said, yes, I need to put this work out. I need to get more reviews, more eyes on the book, and actually inspire more Kenyan children. Uh, in the sense that, they, like I said in the beginning, they're not that many, especially children's books. books, I believe. Yet there's a wealth of stories in the Kenyan culture. Each Kenyan tribe has stories for children that have been passed down for, generations upon generations, and I believe these stories need to be told. And then the second book, again, I'll try and put it out for the camera. Oops, I'm going in the wrong direction.
Yeah, there you go. That looks much
There
nicer.
we go.
Yeah, it's perfect.
All right, cool. So this one I'm super proud of because it is a book of, I wrote it for my daughters, inspired by both my daughters. And basically it's a collection of poems, fully illustrated. And it's just about what I would like them to see themselves as daughters of color. Because, historically, Okello, with issues of colonialism and, people of color have always been subjected to maybe a second, I don't want to say second class status, but I think you understand what I'm trying to say. So it's a collection of poems, and it's basically to deal with self-esteem and self-love and self-worth, and how I would like them each to see themselves and view themselves with inherent self-worth as they, continue on their path through life.
That's beautiful. That's really beautiful. Where can people who are watching get a copy of your book? Do you have these books online?
I do, yes. They're both on Amazon, on Kindle, and Chibet and Rafiki, you can actually get a hard copy also of Amazon Kindle. And for Daughters of Color is available on the same platform as an ebook.
Excellent.
And
excellent.
if there's just something I may add, because I'd mentioned, the Tawi Connect. So Tawi Connect, if you'll allow me to expound a little further, is connected to the books in the sense that what I've pledged, the proceeds of both of the books, toward the funding of Tawi Connect. Now, Tawi Connect was founded by myself and a few friends, one of whom, Pete, my co-founder, is based in the UK. He has also spent time in Kisumu. He loves Kisumu, and he splits his time between the UK and Kisumu. And we've come together, and so Tawi is the Kiswahili word for leaf. So basically the connotation is new leaf, in the sense that we're helping the children turn over a new leaf, both with what we're doing, self-esteem trainings. We're teaching them to be inherently, to have a good sense of self-worth and reach for their dreams. And then we also have a seedling program where we are hoping to go around the schools in the county and establish tree nurseries that the children can take care of, but the members of the community can access seedlings at little or no cost. So that is basically the concept behind Tawi Connect.
That's beautiful. I see so many synergy with a lot of work I do. So we should connect about Tawi Connect. We should connect about Tawi Connect.
Yes, we should.
Yeah, and
Yes.
then I'll be in the UK very soon, and I want to see if I can meet with Pete, and possibly we could do a reading of your book while I'm there. We could do something. But I'll be in the UK in June and July.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm
I'll
excited
let
for
him
you.
know. I'm also sure he's watching this podcast, so I think he already knows that you'll be there.
Yes. I'll be there for sure. And there's so much that you're doing with your books that is needed, and telling stories, in the voices and in the characters of African children is very, very important. So keep up the good work, and I'll connect you with my team in Kisumu, so that I feel that every author needs to have a podcast. And so we need to talk and figure out how to get you a podcast and how to get you going in terms of creating more content for you, because a lot of the work you do needs to be backed up by a lot of media that then pushes it further. But I'm very proud of you. I congratulate you, and I now want to I want to invite our audience members to also participate in our conversation here briefly. A lot of you all are already commenting on YouTube, on Facebook, on LinkedIn, on Twitter, and also on TikTok. In fact, I stand when I'm broadcasting and there's someone on TikTok who is saying, sit down, bro. I just love standing because it keeps me present, and also I don't get lazy. You know, if you sit all the time, you know, sitting just makes you a little lazy, in my opinion. And you know, I just want to stand up and stay alert. But I see that Pete is saying here, Abarigani friends, you know, Pete is joining us here, and he's saying that Dean Martin speaks about his literature and activities. That's beautiful. It's good to have people that stand with you and show up even when you have interviews like this. And then Cabs is saying, I love great stories. Martin, what age group are your books? You know, could you answer that, Martin?
Sure, yes. So Chebet and Rafiki is a more traditional storybook in the sense that it's lots of actual writing. And that's for 7 to 11-year-olds. And then for daughters of color, given the content, you know, self-esteem is a concept and a tenet maybe of our personalities that we work with all our lives, basically. So I'd say from the time the child has a grasp or an understanding of self, again around 7 or 8 years, until adulthood, really, because I have some people who have bought the book for a friend as a gift who's going through a hard time, and then said, you know, this is actually what I needed. I needed to be reminded that I am worthy. So that one is a much wider range of age.
That's beautiful. So, Cabs, I hope your question has been answered. And, you know, when I was speaking about, I see that Pete is joining us from Banbury Cross in the UK, and he's watching on YouTube. And he's saying that as I was speaking, he was reminded of his time in Manyata and Kondele and Mamboleo. Yeah, those are my playgrounds. I played, and you know, I can't take out the visuals of those communities and places off of my mind. Lavender is part of my team and also joining us. Thank you, Lavender. She's saying she's enjoying the conversation. And then Stephen Barty, who is is another podcaster, is the host of the I can't remember the name of your podcast, but he's a host of another amazing podcast. And I just want to give you a shout out. Thank you for joining us. And again, thank you, Pete, for all the comments and all the love that you're giving to Dean and the show today. So if you're just joining us, we've been here for a little over 30 minutes. We are hosting a wonderful author of 3 books. And he's also a Kenyan, father of 3, Dean Martins. We planned to have this show many months ago, but I had to travel to Kenya. And little did I know that Dean was also in Kenya, not only in Kenya, but in my hometown. And so when I was on my way out of Kisumu is when I learned that Dean is there. So this has been a beautiful conversation. I just want you, Dean, to share with us, you know, a couple of things. You know, one is there something that you really wanted to talk about today that I haven't asked you that you want to touch on? And then 2, I want you to just share with us one more time how we can stay connected with you, whether it's on social media or a website, and also finally how we can support you, because you know, many people think that authors have a lot of money, but being an author is a labor of love, you know, and people put in so much work into it, and unless the community gets copies of the book, it's challenging. So speak to those 3 things, and then we'll wrap up our show today.
Okay, thanks again, Okello. I really, really appreciate it. As I mentioned earlier, it's actually my very first podcast, and I'm so grateful for your kindness. Uh, I think we've covered everything. I really wanted a platform, a voice. And I think you may understand this also being an author yourself. I believe the books have a message. I believe the books can help us meet our goals with Tawi Connect. But I am a new author, an unknown author. I'm starting out, and I'm grateful for the platform that you've given me. So, I think coming on the podcast for me, one, I wanted to build confidence, which I think I have done a little bit being on air. And the second was for an opportunity to share the book and also to share about how we connect. And I think we've covered that. Um, to how you asked how people could support. Well, uh, basically, if they could take a copy of the book, if they could buy a book off Amazon, leave a review, help us build a community around this message, and I will, try and get you a book, Okello. I'll try and get both, maybe via Pete when you meet in the UK, or via parcel. And I think once you read them, you'll also have a deeper understanding of the goal we're trying to accomplish, which is we would like to teach our children, especially our Kenyan children, with the history that we have had in the country, post-colonial, politically. Uh, we need to teach all Kenyan children, every Kenyan child, that they are inherently worthy, despite whatever economic circumstances we may find ourselves in, and that they can truly build a future that they can be proud of. And we need to teach them that they are worthy and they are loved and they are capable. They have the capability. Kenyan children are bright, hardworking, lovable children. Whenever we have visitors from overseas, they always comment to me how polite our children are, how inquisitive our children are, how curious our children are, and we need to cultivate this. So to stay in touch, it could be twofold. It could be personally on my email, which is deanjmartins@gmail.com. That's DEAN J, just the letter J, and Martins, MARTINS, @gmail.com. And the social media I find most comfortable is Instagram, and the handle is @DeanJMartins, just like the email, DANJMARTINS. And then the charity has a website, tawiconnect.org. And if somebody gets in touch via the website, the message would either come to myself or to Pete, and we would be happy to engage with the audience more and more.
Excellent. Thank you so much. I also just want to appreciate Eric Ogembo, who is also joining us from Kisumu. I know Eric very well, and also, Moses Ayoma. Thank you very much. These are Kisumu people who are joining us on Facebook. For me, when you're doing anything and the people that you grew up around are tuned in and paying attention, then you're doing something good. If you're doing something bad, they will tell you. That's the beauty of Kisumu people. They will always tell you when you're not doing something good, but also they will tell you when you're doing something good. So to all my guests who joined us, whether it's on TikTok, whether it's on Facebook, on LinkedIn, on Twitter, thank you so much. And for those who joined us on YouTube, I deeply appreciate you. That's where I'm really, really working hard to build this platform. I also want to bring your attention to the MadarakaFestival.com before we wrap up our show. This is something I've been working on for 9 years. For 9 years I've been building this international festival here in the diaspora. We did it once in Kisumu in 2019, but last year was the biggest. Last year it was held at the waterfront in Seattle, but this year we will be in New York on May 16th, Atlanta May 21st and 24th, at House of Blues in Dallas For those 3 shows, you can get your ticket at Ticketmaster. Live Nation is partnering with us to produce this event at all those 3 venues. And in Seattle, we will be at Benaroya Hall. Benaroya Hall is where Seattle Symphony performs. So it's one of the most beautiful music venues in the world. And I can't imagine how wonderful it will be to have an African show where symphony and classical music is performed. So get your tickets for Benaroya Hall at Benaroya Hall's website. Dean, thank you again for making the time, and thank you to all our guests and people who are going to listen to the show later on across podcasting platforms like Apple Podcast, Amazon, Spotify. Thank you again for listening and rating the show. It's deeply appreciated. This show is now a 5-star rated podcast on iTunes, and it's really because you've all taken a minute to listen and also rate the show over there. So if you have time, make sure you listen on iTunes and continue rating the show, and it goes a long way. Martins, thank you again. I deeply appreciate you. Have a beautiful rest of your week.
Thank you, Kela, and good luck.
Father in America. Tujikaze, tujikaze, jikaze. Tujikaze, tujikaze, jikaze. Africa, tujikaze, tujikaze, jikaze. America. Tujikaze, tujikaze, jikaze.
You are listening to African Father in America podcast by Simon Javan Okello, live from Seattle, Washington.